Hello and welcome to the Milan Talk podcast. I'm your host, Amit Paul, and it's all about our big win over Roma on Sunday in today's episode. I'll be picking out a few key tactical points from the game, running through the player ratings, and sharing some of your post-match thoughts on the victory. So let's kick things off with the game as a whole. First half was a struggle for both teams, in my opinion. I think the heat played a massive part on it. I think it was 32 degrees plus in the early evening kickoff in Milan. Both sides were struggling with it, slow tempo. Roma looked a bit more swift and decisive when they were counter-attacking, and that's why they carved open a few decent opportunities. Dzeko missed a massive chance, which could have really changed the game. Çalhanoğlu had a big chance for us, which he should have put away. But generally, I think we played well defensively. I think we were very good with our press and pressure higher up the pitch. But once Roma broke through that initial press, it looked a little bit vulnerable at the back, and that's why they were able to create some opportunities. But overall, in the first 45 minutes, it was a really tight game, and you just kind of thought that it would take some sort of clinical edge from one side to get all 3 points. Very crucial turning point in the game, I thought, was the introduction of Paqueta and Salamakers from Stefano Pioli. Excellent decision, a very good tactical switch. They gave fresh legs, energy, a bit more directness in the attacking third, and I think that made a huge difference. And that showed with both of them involved in the opening goal. Paqueta with the cross in, Salamakers keeping the move alive, and then Rebic eventually putting it in the back of the net. But overall, huge win considering the circumstances and the context, closing the gap on Roma, stretching the lead over Parma and Verona behind us. We're looking to kind of cement our place in that running for the Europa League spots. Defensively, I think we did well. I think we were lacklustre going forward, but found quality at the end. Rebic decisive again, 18-9 for him now. Continues to find the goals that are so crucial to our results. Positive from Paqueta and Salamakers off the bench, and just generally, as I said, considering the conditions, a big shift from all the players, and I was just really impressed with all of them. So hats off to them for what was a very good performance in the end. 3 points, clean sheet, Pioli nailing his substitutions, decision making, just overall, even though it was a slow burner to begin with, I think there's a lot of positives to take away from it heading into the encounter with Spal. I want to start off with this first image, which shows why I was so impressed with the way that we were pressing higher up the pitch. Now, Bonaventura had a really poor game, didn't do enough on the ball, kind of went missing in our attack, didn't really get involved much. But this image just shows that how well this is now working from Pioli and his 4-2-3-1 system. You've got Rebic closing the goalkeeper down. If the goalkeeper had possession, he'd be closing Smalling down. Castillejo's out on the right. Bonaventura is closing the space into midfield. And Çalhanoğlu is closing either Smalling or Zappacosta down. It puts pressure on Miranti, who almost loses the ball, and Rebic almost steals it and puts it in the back of the net. And that was a theme of the first half. We weren't very good on the ball, but what I was really impressed with was the effort, energy, and sort of defence from the front, from the attacking four, as they showed against Lecce as well. Just really impressed with how they were able to press high up the pitch, win back possession quickly, and that kind of allowed us to then slow things down, play at our tempo. And although we didn't carve many opportunities open, I thought that was a really key point in the first half. And then the key after that, the second image shows, this is the first half, and it's something I mentioned again after the Lecce win as well. You've got 4 players in the box waiting for the cross from Theo Hernandez. I think one of our biggest problems and behind the reason why we've not scored many goals this season, and the difference as to why we've now scored 6 in our last 2 games, is that we're getting more bodies in the box, we're supporting the main man up front, and we're asking questions of defences now rather than being sort of one dynamic and a bit predictable with our attacking play. You've got Rebic, Çalhanoğlu, Bonaventura bursting into the box, got Castillejo out on the back post, and it's kind of stretching the Roma defence and it's creating pockets of space, and that's what creates the opportunity for Çalhanoğlu at the back post, where he headed over, but he should have headed into the back of the net, and he'll be disappointed that he didn't put that one away. And then again, it's something with this third image that it was a build-up to Rebic's goal, in fact. Paqueta out on the left, about to cross it in. You've got 4 men breaking into the box. You're creating a situation where Roma are outnumbered. Yes, we won the ball high up the pitch with a high press. Rebic did really well to intercept. But getting the bodies into the box and causing problems is a really key difference that I've noticed in the last 2 games. In this situation, Salamakers eventually gets it back into the middle, from the back post. Kessie has the initial shot, saved. Rebic has 2 bites of it. Eventually, the ball is in the back of the net. And that is only possible because we've got men in the box, keeping the move alive, and just really putting the pressure on Roma. And eventually, we finally got our breakthrough. So that's one key difference, I think, that Pioli's brought in since the restart. We didn't see it so much against Juve in the Coppa Italia because Rebic got sent off after 17 minutes. So it was kind of impossible to see that. But I do feel as though that is a very key difference in the last couple of games that I've seen. And then finally, the last image is something that we've seen for quite a number of Rebic's goals. He seems to have this knack of finding a bit of space in this specific area of the box. You may say it's the right place at the right time, but then that almost, it's an injustice to him in the sense that it's more down to fortune rather than his instincts. I think he occupies a really, really good spot in the penalty box. He's ready, he's on his toes, he's waiting to see if the opportunity comes his way. And it's no fluke that now he's capitalised on a number of these opportunities where the ball comes down the right and he's on hand at the back post, if you like, just drifting away from the action a little bit. And he eventually is the one that puts the ball in the back of the net. It's more than a coincidence. It's happened multiple times now. And that's a credit to him for being so clinical and scoring absolutely crucial goals as well. That's the most important thing. These aren't goals that are coming in a really comfortable win or consolation goals. They're either breaking the deadlock, they're sealing wins, they're sealing positive results. And he's been absolutely brilliant since the turn of the year. So full credit to Rebic. So moving on to the player ratings, I've given Donnarumma to kick things off a 6. Didn't really have much to do. I think the defence did his job for him in the sense they kept it really tight. He did his part in terms of the organisation, I guess, and he commanded his box quite well. There was once where he kind of came out and punched when he perhaps could have collected, but that's not his style. So whatever works for him, and ultimately the danger was snuffed out. So a decent enough performance, but nothing major to do. Andrea Conti gets a 6.5. I think he actually performed quite well down the right flank, kept Justin Kluivert quiet, made some key interventions when defending at the back post. I thought that was a very key, crucial part of his game that may perhaps have gone under the radar, but there were a couple of really good interventions at the back post. And he actually offered us something going forward, which kind of pinned Leonardo Spinazzola back. And I think that was a key part of the game as to how we came away with the win as well. Simon Kjaer gets a 7 out of 10. I thought he was brilliant. I noted before the game that, especially in this game, because of Dzeko's presence up front for Roma, Kjaer's physicality, his leadership, just his presence, I thought it was a really good matchup to deal with Dzeko, and he did really well. Kept him quiet for the most part of the game. Impressed with his distribution at the back as well. And if you notice, Dzeko's header in the first half, it could actually be seen as a negative as well, I guess, but Kjaer actually got dragged out of position onto the right, and when the ball came in, it was Romagnoli who lost Dzeko, and that was literally the only chance that I can remember the Roma striker having. So Kjaer kept him under wraps, and I thought he did a really good job. Romagnoli gets a 6.5. I think he marks down a tiny bit because of that chance. He did allow Dzeko to kind of drift in behind him. But that aside, I thought he was equally as solid in the back line, and he limited Roma's attacking threat. So I think he was good as well. Theo Hernandez gets a 6 out of 10. I think he did well. He won the penalty. He didn't look too troubled defensively, which is a good thing. But I think he's still lacking a little bit of sharpness and that bit of explosiveness that he showed before the lockdown. I don't know whether it's just a fitness thing or conditioning. He just needs a couple of games to get going. But I'm not quite sure we're seeing him at his fittest and at his best at the moment. And that's why I've given him a 6 out of 10. But I certainly expect him to get better as the games go on. Frank Kessie gets a 6.5. I really like Kessie and how he's playing in the last few games. He's really settled into that two-man midfield alongside Benacer. I think it's a role that gets the best out of him. He shows his combativeness, physicality, and it doesn't really require him to do much on the ball except keep it nice and tidy and just keep the game going and flowing, and not having to do too much, which isn't sort of in his comfort zone. So I think it suits him well. He's doing really well. He's consistent. And I'm really pleased with how he's playing at the moment. So 6.5 for him. Benacer also gets a 6.5. I think he was always on hand to sweep up in front of the defence. He made some really good interceptions. Passing wasn't quite as accurate as we're used to, and it wasn't quite as flowing and sort of decisive. But I still think it was a really good performance. His energy, his work rate in midfield helped us to win that battle. and which in turn helped us win the entire battle in what was a really, really difficult game. And as you could see in the second half, as Roma began to tire, we began to finish strong, and I think that kind of started in midfield. So a lot of credit goes to Kessie and Benacer for that result. Samu Castillejo gets a 5.5. Disappointed with Samu after his really good performance against Lecce. I was kind of expecting another follow-up performance to that. You can never fault him for his work rate. He still does his part for the team. He sacrifices himself to do the hard yards in terms of closing down, pressing, tracking back, all of that. He still does it. So that is a really important part of his game. However, from an attacking sense, he just wasn't at it. I didn't think he did much when he was on the ball. He was crowded out when he was, and he had some very, very limited influence. So it wasn't really a surprise to see him taken off just before the hour mark. So, Bonaventura actually gets a 5 out of 10, the lowest of the lot. I think it was a real struggle for him. I don't know if it was just the conditions, playing games so soon together. I think it all perhaps contributed and combined to see him really struggle. Didn't show quality on the ball. He had a good chance in the first half, but apart from that, didn't really offer much. And it was in the second half, you kind of felt it was just a countdown to when Pioli was going to take him off. I think it was the 54th minute he eventually came off. So yeah, disappointed with Bonaventura. But as I've said before, I think there are games where he will be key. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to make an influence on this one. Çalhanoğlu gets a 6.5. He missed a big chance in the first half, as I mentioned, with that header. He did struggle to get into the game in the opening 45 minutes, but I think he definitely improved after the break, became more of a threat. There was that 1-2 he played to get in behind Smalling, forced a good save at Morante, and then eventually wrapped things up with a penalty as well. Took it really well, so I think it gets bumped up for the finishing strong to the game, just as the team did as a whole, so 6.5 for him. And then finally, Rebic, 7 out of 10. Difficult game for any lone frontman against those two physical Roma defenders. But Rebic never stopped running, never stopped closing down, always trying to trouble them with his movement and his runs off the ball. You could tell he was lagging a little bit again because of the conditions. I think he was walking around a little bit more than we're used to, but ultimately he was rewarded for pouncing on that stray pass from Zappacosta to intercept. That was the initial part of the build-up to the first goal, which he scored himself. And yeah, just again, showed great goal-scoring instinct to be on hand to smash home the goal. Interestingly, it's a comparison that I've made, and in no way am I suggesting that he's on the same level as him, or, you can't really compare the two in terms of what they've shown so far, but I'm liking sort of Roberto Firmino-esque role that Rebic has got in this team at the moment. You can see that he presses from the front, he's the first line of defence, and you get that from Firmino for Liverpool, but then also he likes to drop back deeper, creating that kind of diamond in the attacking third, and that then allows Çalhanoğlu, Bonaventura and Castillejo to be more of an attacking threat. So I think they work rather similar. I wouldn't be surprised maybe perhaps if Pioli has seen that and is kind of modelling it around him. Again, like I said, I'm not suggesting he's at that level or they can be compared, but that is certainly something that I'm quite interested to see develop, especially with Ibrahimovic coming back during the week potentially. In terms of the subs, I've given both Salamakers and Paqueta both a 6.5. Salamakers lacking a bit of quality on the ball still, but I thought his energy and directness really helped pick up the tempo when we needed it to in the second half. Took advantage as the game kind of opened up and it was more end-to-end. And like I said as well earlier, kept the move alive in the build-up to the first goal. And that was a very positive sort of impact from him, which is good to see because we haven't seen a great deal from him thus far. And then similarly for Paqueta, made a big difference off the bench as the pace of our play kind of picked up and improved. He looked dangerous, finding pockets of space between Roma's midfield and defence, and was heavily involved in the first goal as well with the initial cross into the box. So looked more comfortable as a playmaker through the middle behind the main striker, and that's something that hopefully we'll see a bit more of in the coming weeks, depending if Pioli decides to rotate and give others rest. I think Bonaventura is potentially at risk of being dropped against Spal. It'd be interesting to see if Paqueta gets the nod instead. Rafael Leao came on, a bit too late to get a rating, but worth noting that I did notice that Pioli was constantly barking out orders at him. And like I said before, many times on this pod now and on the website, there is no doubting Rafael Leao's talent. He is a very, very talented young player. He's got the raw talents to be a real top player. The issue that I have and the issue that Pioli seemingly has as well, because he's mentioned it directly, publicly in his post-match interviews in recent weeks, Leao doesn't do enough off the ball, and I think that's the big thing that he needs to address if he wants to make it to the top. You could constantly hear Pioli encouraging him to close down, track back, press. To his credit, he did it on occasion, but if you need your manager to really kind of beat that into you while you're in the game and it's evenly poised, that's the kind of thing that you need to take responsibility for yourself rather than having someone constantly remind you and telling you what to do. That kind of hints to me at perhaps a lack of tactical awareness, understanding, and because I find it difficult to sit here and suggest that it's a commitment thing or a desire thing. He's a young player trying to prove himself. He's got a great opportunity to do so. So I don't really understand why he wouldn't put everything into his performances. You see what Rebic can do in that position. Leao should be doing exactly the same in terms of attitude and effort and commitment. So that's something that hopefully we'll see more of in the coming weeks. Right, so moving on to your thoughts after the game finally. Brad at Spidey0816, very flat first half, very hard to watch and even a little at the start of the second, but Paqueta and Salamanca subs, and we seemed to up the tempo. Grabbed a crazy goal and then it opened up the game from there. Theo winning a penalty for Hakan to put it away. Not a pretty win, but 3 points. Exactly right, Brad. Like I said, we won in style against Lecce earlier in the week and we ground this one out. 3 points, clean sheet. Yep, it would have been nice to have been a bit more convincing and a bit more entertaining, but importantly, we got the 3 points, so that's the big positive. Marvin Diaz at Marvin Diaz 619, loving this new formation. Couldn't agree more with Marvin. I think the 4-2-3-1 is really suiting us, suiting the players. It's getting the best out of them. They look comfortable in their roles. Like I said before, the attacking four are kind of interchanging and they know their roles on and off the ball, and it's all working really well. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this can continue. Evo A at Evo ACM 1899. I don't believe Kaya has played so well for any of his previous clubs. Very attentive and clever play. He's a very important player for us right now. And also another important game from Hakan. He and Benacer are the two key players in our midfield. 100% agree with you on Kaya. I personally, I've got to admit, am surprised. I didn't think it was that sensible of a move in January. But he has proven me wrong. The injuries is an issue. He has picked up a couple of knocks since he's been with us. He's only played 10 games since January, obviously with the lockdown in mind as well. But the injuries is a concern. He needs to stay fit. But when he has played, he has done very, very well. So yeah, really impressed with him. And yeah, like I said, Benacer and Çalhanoğlu, two very important players in our midfield. I'd add Kessie in recent weeks because I just think he's been very consistent and very good. But you're right, those two are certainly standing out now, and hopefully there's still much more to come from both of them. Jordan Johnston at Jordan M. Johnston. If that Dzeko header went in, it would have been a completely and whole different game. Can't disagree with that either. If we'd have been battling coming from behind in that heat, it would have been a very, very difficult task. So yeah, agree with that. Eddie Milanista at Lord Double D. Salamanca's is putting in fine work. Leao needs more fire in his play, but does well making runs alongside Theo. Really want to see Benacer score a goal, and I hope Paqueta shows more of these positive displays. Again, I'd love to disagree with you guys, but I really can't. Great impact from Salamanca's. You've spot on with Leao. Definitely needs to play with a bit more fire in his play. And yeah, it'd be great to see Benacer get on the score sheet. He's doing everything else but that. So it'd be great to see him get his goal. And yeah, Paqueta, hopefully this is something he can build on now and it doesn't kind of fade away into inconsistency again. I'd like him to start against Spal, if I'm honest. Like I said, Bonaventura wasn't great. This is potentially an opportunity for Paqueta to get the nod instead, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Siab Ahmed says, don't forget Alex, played well too. I'm assuming that's Salamanca's, so yes, agreed. That is a very good point. He did play very, very well. And then Shreyas, don't think it was a poor first half considering we limited Roma to just one chance and kept Dzeko quiet. Also created a good chance in the other end. Both teams were playing it safe in the first half to avoid gifting 3 points early on. Yeah, good point, Shreyas. It's another point of view perspective, I guess. From my perspective, I just felt that it was too slow and we didn't really show enough quality in the first half. And that's what goes for both sides. I said it at halftime in my tweet as well that the heat and the conditions were making it that way. It wasn't so much that the players just didn't turn up in the first half. I think it was a really stupid idea to actually play at that time. So yeah, it's a more positive perspective to take on it. We did well defensively. We shut down Dzeko, and we had our own big chance, which if we put away, it would have made life much more comfortable. So, yeah, fair enough. Decent performance in the first half, I guess, but definitely much improved in the second half, and I thought we thoroughly deserved the win based on that. So, yeah, good stuff. 3 points in the bag, and on to Spal on Wednesday. That's a wrap for this pod. Check out milantalk.com for more reaction, more posts daily. There's some more tactical stuff that I'll post on there, and just reaction, individual performances and other stuff. At Milan Talk 1 on Facebook and Twitter. Like, subscribe, share the video if you're enjoying it. But until Wednesday, Forza Milan.